The fluorescent lights in the hospital conference room cast harsh shadows across my father's face as he delivered what he believed was the final word on Mom's treatment options. We were gathered around a sterile white table, Dad, my older brother Miguel, my sister-in-law Carmen, and me, while Mom rested in her hospital bed 3 floors above us, recovering from the heart attack that had brought us all together in crisis. The triple bypass surgery costs $247,000. Dad announced, consulting the papers spread before him. Plus post-operative care, medications and rehabilitation. We're looking at over $300,000 total. Miguel nodded gravely. That's why Carmen and I have been researching payment plans and medical loans. We can handle this as a family. You can't afford Mom's $200,000 surgery, Dad said, his voice rising as he looked directly at me. We'll handle the real decisions. This isn't about your feelings, Isabella. This is about practical financial planning. I sat quietly in my folding chair, wearing my usual uniform of jeans and a simple sweater. To my family, I looked exactly like what they'd believed for the past 5 years. Their struggling youngest daughter who'd dropped out of medical school to pursue freelance consulting, whatever that meant. Carmen leaned forward with false sympathy. Bella, we know you want to help, but this requires serious financial resources. Miguel's architectural firm is doing well and we have excellent credit. We can secure the medical loans. The important thing, Dad continued, is that we make decisions based on reality, not emotions. Miguel has established himself professionally. He understands financial responsibility. This was familiar territory. Ever since I'd left medical school 5 years ago to start what my family called playing with computers, every major family decision was made around me, not with me. They assumed I was barely scraping by, living paycheck to paycheck as a freelance consultant, contributing nothing substantial to family emergencies. I just want Mom to get the best possible care, I said quietly. Of course you do, Miguel said in the patronizing tone he'd perfected over the years. But wanting something and being able to provide it are different things. This surgery requires the cardiac team at Presbyterian General, the best in the state. Dr. Harrison's team has a 98% success rate for cases like Mom's. Which is why we're willing to take on the financial burden, Carmen added. Family takes care of family even when it's expensive. Dad shuffled through more papers. I've also been in contact with the Torres Foundation. They sometimes help with medical expenses for families in need. We might qualify for assistance. I almost smiled at that. The Torres Foundation. If only he knew. The application process takes weeks, Dad continued, but Miguel thinks we should apply anyway. Every little bit helps. Absolutely, Miguel agreed. Though honestly, Bella, this is probably beyond what you're used to dealing with. These kinds of major medical decisions require understanding complex financial instruments, insurance negotiations, hospital billing departments. It's not really your area. I nodded quietly. They weren't wrong about my lack of experience with medical billing. I'd never had to navigate insurance claims or payment plans or medical loans. I'd never needed to. My phone buzzed on the table. Dr. Sarah Harrison, the cardiac surgeon herself. I let it ring. See. Carmen pointed at my phone. You can't even afford to keep it on silent mode. This is exactly what we mean about being professional in medical situations. The phone buzzed again. Dr. Harrison again. Bella, Dad said sternly. It's inappropriate to take calls during family medical discussions. You're right, I said, reaching for the phone. I should probably just turn it off. But Dr. Harrison was calling a third time. As the head of cardiac surgery, she wouldn't call repeatedly unless it was urgent. Actually, I said, this might be hospital-related. Let me just check. Miguel rolled his eyes. Of course. Even now, your freelance consulting can't wait. I answered the call and put it on speaker so I could continue looking at the family meeting papers. Hello, Dr. Harrison. Isabella. Finally. The cardiac surgeon's voice filled the conference room with obvious excitement. I've been trying to reach you all afternoon. I have incredible news about your mother's case. My family exchanged confused glances. Why would the head of cardiac surgery be calling me directly? The cardiac wing renovation you funded is complete, Dr. Harrison continued. The new surgical suites, the advanced monitoring systems, the recovery rooms, everything is operational and ready. Your mother will be the first patient to benefit from the new Torres Cardiac Excellence Center. Dad's pen stopped moving across his paperwork. Miguel's mouth fell slightly open. The entire surgical team is honored to perform the procedure in the facility you made possible, Dr. Harrison said. Of course, as discussed, all expenses are covered under the Torres Foundation Medical Initiative. Your mother will receive the absolute best care at no cost to the family. Carmen was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Dr. Harrison, I said calmly, when can we schedule the procedure? Tomorrow morning if you approve. The surgical team, the new equipment, the private recovery suite, everything is ready. This is exactly the kind of case we hope to handle when you establish the cardiac program. The conference room had gone completely silent. Even the background noise from the hospital corridor seemed to have faded. That sounds perfect, I said. Thank you for taking such good care of Mom. Isabella, it's we who should be thanking you. The $50 million Torres Foundation donation has transformed cardiac care at this hospital. Your mother will receive treatment that wouldn't have been possible without your vision for improving heart surgery outcomes. Miguel's architectural plans slipped from his hands onto the floor. I'll meet with the family shortly to discuss preoperative procedures, Dr. Harrison continued. And Isabella, the hospital board wanted me to remind you about the dedication ceremony next month. We're unveiling the Torres Foundation plaque in the main lobby. I'll check my calendar, I said. Wonderful. See you soon. I ended the call and placed my phone back on the table. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Finally, Dad found his voice. That was Dr. Harrison, I said simply. Head of cardiac surgery. She said, $50 million? Carmen whispered. I nodded. The Torres Foundation. I established it 3 years ago to improve cardiac care outcomes. Mom's case is exactly why I started the program. Miguel was staring at me like I was a stranger. You donated $50 million to this hospital? The foundation has donated $50 million so far, I corrected. To 3 hospitals in the region. Presbyterian General received the largest grant because they had the most advanced cardiac surgery program to build on. Dad was shuffling through his papers as if they might provide some explanation for what he'd just heard. Isabella, I don't understand. You left medical school. You do freelance consulting. I do technology consulting, I said. Specifically, I develop software systems for healthcare management. Electronic medical records, surgical scheduling platforms, patient outcome tracking. The consulting work grew into a company called MedTech Solutions. Carmen was frantically scrolling through her phone. Oh my God, she whispered. MedTech Solutions. You're the CEO of MedTech Solutions. She held up her phone, showing a Google search result. Forbes article from last year. Isabella Torres, 29, transforms healthcare technology. There's a picture of you in a boardroom. Miguel leaned over to look at the screen. Torres sold her electronic medical records platform to Johnson & Johnson for $340 million, but retained control of MedTech Solutions, which continues to revolutionize hospital management systems nationwide. Dad's hands were shaking as he reached for Carmen's phone. $340 million? That was just one platform, I explained. MedTech Solutions has developed 7 different healthcare software systems. We work with over 800 hospitals across North America. But you live in that small apartment, Dad said weakly. You drive a Honda. You never mentioned any of this. I tried to, I said gently. Remember 2 years ago at Christmas when I tried to explain my healthcare software work? You said, computers can't replace real medicine, and suggested I go back to medical school before it was too late. The memory hit the table like a physical blow. Every time I brought up my company or the foundation work, someone changed the subject back to my lack of direction, or my failure to commit to a real career. Miguel was reading more search results. Isabella, there are dozens of articles about you. Healthcare technology pioneer. Youngest female CEO in medical software. Torres Foundation transforms regional cardiac care. Why didn't you tell us? Dad asked, his voice barely audible. I did tell you. You just couldn't hear it because it didn't match what you expected my life to look like. Carmen was still scrolling. The Torres Foundation website lists donations totaling $127 million over 3 years. Cardiac care, pediatric oncology, medical research grants. But the apartment, Miguel said, still trying to process. The old car. I spend about $40,000 a year on personal expenses, I said. Everything else goes back into the company or the foundation. The goal isn't to look wealthy. The goal is to improve healthcare outcomes. My phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Harrison. Family meeting in conference room B in 10 minutes to discuss preoperative procedures. They're ready for us upstairs, I said, standing. Dr. Harrison wants to walk through Mom's surgery timeline. As we gathered our things, Dad approached me quietly. Isabella, I owe you an enormous apology. You don't owe me anything, Dad. You love Mom and you wanted to make sure she got the best care possible. That's exactly what's going to happen. But I dismissed you. We all did. We treated you like family who was concerned about me, I finished. I understand why you made the assumptions you made. Miguel was shaking his head slowly. Bella, I feel like an idiot. Here I was talking about taking on medical loans while you've been running a healthcare technology empire. Your architectural work is important too, I said. People need beautiful, functional buildings. I need software systems that help doctors save lives. The world needs both. Walking toward the elevator, Carmen said quietly, Isabella, can I ask why you never corrected us more directly? Why you let us think you were struggling financially? I considered the question as we waited for the elevator. Because I wanted to know that you cared about me regardless of my financial situation. If I'd led with, I'm worth hundreds of millions of dollars, would your concern have been about me as a person or about me as a resource? The elevator arrived and we stepped inside. As we rode up to meet with Dr. Harrison, Dad said, for what it's worth, we failed that test. It wasn't a test, I said. It was just complicated family dynamics. But we're here now, Mom is getting the best possible care and that's what matters. Conference room B was larger than the one we'd been in, with windows overlooking the city. Dr. Harrison was waiting with a team of nurses and specialists, all wearing professional smiles that immediately put us at ease. Mr. Torres, Miguel, Carmen, Dr. Harrison said, shaking hands with each family member. I'm so pleased to meet Isabella's family. She's spoken of you often during our foundation planning meetings. Foundation planning meetings? Dad echoed. Oh yes, Dr. Harrison said. Isabella has been instrumental in designing our cardiac care expansion. Her insights into patient outcomes data have shaped our entire approach to heart surgery recovery protocols. Miguel looked at me with something approaching awe. You've been working on cardiac care protocols? Software systems that track patient outcomes, I explained. If we can identify which recovery methods work best for which types of patients, we can improve success rates and reduce complications. Dr. Harrison nodded enthusiastically. The Torres Foundation's data analysis has already improved our patient outcomes by 23%. Your sister is revolutionizing how we approach cardiac care. For the next hour, Dr. Harrison walked us through Mom's surgery plan. The new cardiac wing included surgical suites with the most advanced monitoring equipment available, recovery rooms designed for optimal healing, and staff trained in the latest cardiac care protocols, all funded by the Torres Foundation. Your mother will receive care that represents the absolute cutting edge of cardiac surgery, Dr. Harrison concluded. Thanks to Isabella's vision for improving heart surgery outcomes, we can offer treatment options that didn't exist even 2 years ago. As we prepared to leave the meeting, Dad lingered behind. Dr. Harrison, can I ask you something? Of course. When Isabella first approached you about the foundation, what was your impression of her? Dr. Harrison smiled. Honestly, I was skeptical. A 26-year-old tech entrepreneur wanting to revolutionize cardiac care? It sounded like Silicon Valley arrogance meeting medical complexity. And now I consider her one of the most insightful healthcare innovators I've ever worked with. She understands that technology should serve patients, not replace human care. Her software systems make doctors more effective, not less relevant. Dad nodded slowly. She's always been brilliant. We just didn't see it. Family dynamics can be complicated, Dr. Harrison said kindly. What matters is that you're here now, supporting each other through this. Walking back to Mom's room, Miguel said, Bella, I have to ask, what's it like? Running a company worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I thought about the question as we navigated the hospital corridors. Mostly it's like solving very complex puzzles. How do you make software that helps doctors save lives? How do you scale that across hundreds of hospitals? How do you measure whether you're actually improving patient outcomes? And the money? The money is a tool for solving bigger puzzles. The Torres Foundation can fund research and equipment that individual hospitals couldn't afford. We can test new approaches to cardiac care across multiple institutions simultaneously. Carmen was quiet for a moment, then said, Isabella, I owe you an apology beyond just tonight. I've been dismissive of you for years. We all have, Miguel added. We assumed that because your path looked different from ours, it was somehow lesser. I stopped walking and looked at both of them. Miguel, you design buildings that will stand for generations. Carmen, you teach high school students who will go on to change the world. Your work matters just as much as mine does. But we didn't see that your work mattered, Dad said quietly. We saw the apartment and the car and the lack of traditional markers of success, and we made assumptions. Success looks different for everyone, I said. I measure mine by whether the software systems I build actually improve patient outcomes. The financial returns just enable me to solve bigger problems. When we reached Mom's room, she was awake and alert, looking much better than she had that morning. How did the family meeting go? She asked as we filed in. Dad sat down beside her bed and took her hand. Maria, our daughter has been taking better care of you than we ever knew. Mom looked confused. What do you mean? The surgery you need? Dad's voice was thick with emotion. Isabella already arranged everything. The best surgeon, the newest equipment, a completely new cardiac wing. All covered. Mom looked at me, then back at Dad. I don't understand. Isabella runs a healthcare technology company, Miguel explained. She's donated millions of dollars to improve cardiac care at this hospital. Mom, she built the cardiac center where you'll have your surgery. Mom was quiet for a long time, studying my face. Finally, she said, You left medical school to become a doctor anyway, didn't you? I felt tears starting in my eyes. Something like that. Just with computers instead of stethoscopes. Computers that help doctors with stethoscopes be more effective, I said. Mom smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her since the heart attack. I'm proud of you, Mija. I always knew you'd find your way to helping people. Even when I dropped out of medical school? Especially then, Mom said. You were brave enough to find your own path to healing people. That evening, as visiting hours ended and we prepared to leave for the night, Dad walked with me to the parking garage. Isabella, he said as we reached my Honda, I need to say something and I need you to really hear me. I waited. I failed you as a father. Not financially, obviously you didn't need financial support. But emotionally. I failed to see what you were building, failed to support your choices, failed to ask the right questions about your work. Dad. Let me finish, he said. You've spent 5 years revolutionizing healthcare while we treated you like a disappointment. You've saved lives, improved patient outcomes, and created technology that helps doctors across the country, while we worried about whether you could afford rent. I leaned against my car. You were worried about me because you love me. We were worried about the wrong things because we weren't paying attention to the right things, he said. Tomorrow our family will benefit from work you've been doing for years to help people like Mom. And we never even knew to say thank you. You don't need to thank me, Dad. This is what family does. No, he said firmly. This is what extraordinary people do. And somehow, despite our failure to recognize it, we raised an extraordinary daughter. The next morning, Mom's surgery took place in the state-of-the-art Torres Cardiac Excellence Center. Dr. Harrison and her team used equipment and protocols that represented the latest advances in cardiac care, all made possible by the foundation I'd established 3 years earlier. The surgery was a complete success. Mom's recovery was faster and smoother than anyone had predicted, thanks in part to the advanced monitoring systems and recovery protocols developed through the Torres Foundation's patient outcome research. 6 weeks later, at the hospital's dedication ceremony for the Torres Foundation plaque, Mom sat in the front row with Dad, Miguel, and Carmen. The plaque read, Torres Foundation Cardiac Excellence Center, established 2021, in gratitude for the vision and generosity of Isabella Torres, whose commitment to improving cardiac care outcomes has transformed lives throughout our region. During the ceremony, Dr. Harrison spoke about the impact of the Foundation's work. In just 2 years, the Torres Foundation's contributions have improved our cardiac surgery success rate by 31% and reduced recovery times by an average of 40%. But more importantly, They've shown us that innovation in healthcare comes from understanding both technology and humanity. After the ceremony, as we walked to the parking garage together, Dad said, "Isabella, I have one more question." "What's that?" "What's next?" "For the Foundation for MedTech Solutions for You." I thought about the pediatric oncology wing we were planning, the medical research grants we were considering, the new software platform that could revolutionize emergency room efficiency. More puzzles to solve, I said. More ways to help doctors save lives. More opportunities to improve patient outcomes. Mom linked her arm through mine. More ways to be a doctor without being a doctor. Exactly. Miguel smiled. And we'll try to do a better job of paying attention to what you're actually building instead of what we think you should be building. That would be nice, I said. But honestly, the most important thing is that we're all here together and Mom is healthy. As we reached our cars, Carmen said, "Isabella, can I ask you one favor?" "Of course. Next time you revolutionize an entire industry, maybe give us a heads up?" I laughed. "I'll try. Though to be fair, I did mention the healthcare software thing at Christmas." "Next time," Dad said, "we'll listen better." "Deal," I said. 6 months later, the Torres Foundation had expanded to fund pediatric oncology research at 4 hospitals, and MedTech Solutions had developed an emergency room management system that reduced patient wait times by an average of 35%. Mom had made a complete recovery and was volunteering at the hospital's cardiac rehabilitation program. And every Sunday our family had dinner together, not to discuss my career choices or financial decisions, but to catch up on the work we were all doing to make the world a little bit better in our own ways.